Hi, friends. I'm so excited to introduce you to Jenny Macke today. But before I do, I just want to tell you what her classes have meant to me. When I found her, I was the mother of two toddlers. I had been pregnant and or nursing for the last 5 years straight and working on top of that, just a very busy mother. And I had been struggling with postpartum depression and a very difficult entry into motherhood. I felt like I lost my sense of self. And I learned to settle into motherhood, but then it was important to me to regain who I was. This is the long haul, and I had to find myself again. So when I had a little window of fresh air, I started to search for a way to regain my bodily autonomy and my sense of self. And I came across Jenny's dance class up at Present Studio in Bellingham. And I started going on Thursday nights, and it just opened up a world for me of authentic self-expression and really owning my space again. It was really nurturing for my mama soul. I got to express and work through all the things that my babies wouldn't understand, and I couldn't talk about. I just had to move it. So I'm really delighted to have Jenny on the show today, and I hope you enjoy hearing her speak as much as I do.
Welcome to the Five Petal Podcast. I'm your host, Bridgid Burcano, a mystic home, hearth, and parenting coach, here to help you come home to yourself through the 5 petals of the well woman's rose. Through interviews and reflections, we explore what it means to care for your whole self, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and relationally, so you can live with more clarity, self-trust, and rooted connection. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody. We have a very special guest today, Jenny Macke. Jenny is a soft and wild teacher, a nurturer, and an edge walker in one. Always willing to dive deep and seek the unexpected. Tuning in with her heart, mind, and belly, she sees and supports the web of interconnection, personally and collectively, that is a necessary healing salve in our world today. Investigating our depths through emotional work, making art, and deep connection to the natural world feeds her soul and inspires her teaching each time she steps into this role. She has been teaching embodiment and movement for over 25 years, having mentored and studied with some extraordinary teachers. She has a master's degree in leadership education. She founded Present Studio, a beautiful and vibrant movement studio now run as a collective nonprofit in Bellingham, Washington. Open floor movement practice is her modality of choice. She has trained many teachers from around the world in embodiment and conscious dance practice. In addition, she's deeply committed to being the executive director of Rite of Passage Journeys, which is a 55-year-old organization committed to mentoring and personal growth through deep connection to the natural world and rite of passage ceremonies. She also was a body worker for many years, who is infinitely fascinated by the fascia of the body, the nervous system, and how it all shapeshifts and adapts for us not to just survive, but also to thrive when conscious intention is brought to these systems. In addition, dream work, shamanic studies, and prayerful healing ceremony is a lifetime muse of study. Her greatest daily influence is living on 14 acres by a wild river at a magical place called River Root Farm. Waking to the sound of chittering eagles, witnessing the changes of the river, and feeling the song of the forest and mountains is having its wild way with her. Hello, Jenny. Welcome.
Thanks, Bridget. It's great to be here with you. We get to geek
Yes.
out about dance and movement and embodiment and nature connection, all the things we love.
I know, and it's so funny to be in this medium of the spoken word when usually it's eye contact and dancing is how you and I
Yeah,
usually spend time together.
yeah. It's wild to know people and not know all their deets, to really know somebody's the way they move in the world or how their heart expresses itself or some unspeakable, you might call it soul, something in their soul, but you don't know. I mean, I know some things about you, but sometimes I don't know what their job is, or if they have kids or a partner, or any of those things that you chat about socially with people. We just drop in together as humans.
Yeah.
It's a relief, isn't it?
Oh, every time. And it's so intimate. That's the thing. It's like you don't know, but you do.
Yeah. Trusting something that we weren't taught to trust. It's cool. I love it.
Right. So I just read your bio, so everybody knows a little bit about you and how potent you are in this work and you've put the years in. You're really just I really look to you for this dream of like medicine mama with the earth,
Mm-hmm.
really practicing, doing the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would love to know, and what I really want to help my listeners understand, is that we all come from somewhere. Where were you in the beginning? How did you come into embodiment work? What pulled you in, and why did you want it?
As a kid, I was a mover, a tree climber, and a racer around the neighborhood. And um, some people may have called that a tomboy at that point. Definitely that we attribute some of those things to the masculine, but as a young human, I was just so exploratory with my body. I just wanted to test and learn and move and see and do and I loved that as a kid. I loved it. And sometimes I think it's that I had my parents are still together to this day, and they definitely love me, but something about my generation, like parents weren't so present. They were, kids did what the parents did, or kids did what, or kids ran. We just had our own lives separate from our parents, and our parents weren't necessarily even paying attention. I got fed, but the rest of the time I ran around the neighborhood. And then, 10, 11, 12 hit, and I started getting ostracized by people, like kids in my life, because I wasn't fitting the girly mode, or I wasn't like presenting the way that I was supposed to present.
Mm.
And I wanted to belong. And so I stopped racing, and I stopped like racing at recess, and instead like hung out and like gossiped with the girls or whatever that was. I changed myself to fit in, and it became less of the physical and more of the like social piece. And I think that I lost myself in that as a child. And and societal norms of how a girl is supposed to behave or look like got reinforced by my family of origin. And um you know um it became more about how the body looks
Mm.
instead of how the body moves.
Hmm.
And so, definitely in my teen years, I had eating disorder and um, a disassociation from my body. I was raised Catholic, similar to you, Bridget. I listened to your first episode, and I was raised Catholic, and there's that like, don't trust your body. So as sensual or sexual feelings started coming into my body, I just um yeah, stop trusting it because I was told it's not trustworthy.
Right.
And so yeah, people say, call us, can say that that's the wounded healer that comes forward, the part of you that wants to reclaim something that's in your very nature. And I had a lot of judgment about my body. It's been a lifetime to heal that judgment of my body. And then also just because of some things related to trauma in my life, I had some disassociations and ways of escaping. And um, in my 20s, I was stressed. I was just really, really stressed. And one of the things I did start doing in college and in my 20s to relieve stress was I would run. I would just like put on my headphones. I even remember this. I would listen to that Tracy Chapman. I would listen to Tracy Chapman like an emotional CD, not a like high energy CD, but like an
Wow.
emotional CD. And
Yeah.
I'd put on Tracy Chapman on my, little old yellow Walkman we used to have. And I would just run around the track during like stressful times in college. And I would just run and run and run and run and try to move something in my body that was overwhelming me. And so I was a runner for a long time. I also played tennis. I just like in that terms of moving, I feel like that was the first dance I learned was tennis because
Wow.
it's like up and down, and around and back and forth and move and express. And, you know, people would always say to me, "Hey, Jenny, maybe if you don't hit the ball so hard." I'm like, but it feels good to hit the ball hard. I just wanted to hit the crap out of
Yes.
it. Yeah. So, I played sports. I did conventional things, but I wasn't a dancer. I was even kind of categorized in my family as a klutz because I did test my body so much as a kid. I like broke bones and got stitches and things like that. So, um, and I got kind of shamed for that, like those things. So, um, yeah, I was really stressed and I was running a lot. It's hard on my body. It was hard on it. And I was living in Texas and I was working at University of Texas Austin. I was in a graduate program for leadership and I walked by this gym at the rec center that I worked at this big event, and Debbie and Carlos Rosas, who were the creators of something called Nia, it's like a mind, body, spirit fitness thing, were teaching a class. And I walked by Bridgid, and there was like this hit of energy, like I'd never felt before in my life, like boom. And I was like, what is going on in there? People are doing things that kind of look, smell, and feel like things I knew. Like there's a period of time where I would like, in my eating disorder where I would purge through exercise. So I would go to like 3 aerobics classes a day. So it like looked like aerobics class, but it wasn't an aerobics class. They were like, people were moving their hands in wild ways and they were like expressing themselves and they were barefoot. And so I found a person at the university where I was working, Holly Curtis. I'm grateful for her for the rest of my life, who taught Nia. And I would sneak away at my lunchtime and like not tell my coworkers who I used to run with where I was going because I was like embarrassed. I was doing this woo-woo thing and I'd go dance. And I just like the healing happened. I started loving my body, not just using my body. I started to explore my emotions around my shame, around my trying to control my weight or my size. I started expressing myself in ways I'd never expressed myself, perhaps since I was a young kid, like really connecting with nature and running around the neighborhood and so um yeah, I studied Nia first, and then I had this great teacher in Berkeley, California, where I'd moved to, named Heather Monroe Pierce, who taught Nia, and then she had kind of involved it into her own thing, and I mentored with her. She brought a lot of spirit into her work and a lot of like I would even say like primal movement and imagery and
Wow.
So I became a Nia teacher, and then I mentored with Heather. And then I brought a friend of mine. This is kind of the long and the short of it. I brought a friend of mine to dance with me, and Heather's was still choreographed some. And my friend said, "No way, you got to go try the five rhythms.
Oh,
You
okay.
need to go to Kathy Altman's class, who, still my friend, mentor, teacher to this day. This is 25 years ago, so 25 years later. And I went to Kathy's class in Marin, California, and I danced that night like I'd never danced before in my life. And I'll never forget like coming home and putting my feet on my partner's lap and saying, my feet are on fire. Like I felt like I woke up in my body and I fell in love with sensation and feeling and um and with dance. I just fell in love with dance. And for me from that point forward it was a healing practice of my relationship with my body, but also my relationship with my thoughts, the thoughts about my body, but my thoughts about anything. Like I started to see the movement of my mind, and it was so healing with my emotions. Like I instead of like compartmentalizing my emotions or stuffing them down or exploding with them, I began to understand how emotions move and what my emotional life was and what I wanted to evolve in my emotional life. And then physically, what I learned how to express that had been repressed was extraordinary. I began to, I began to be able to express things that were frozen and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know the masks I had put on.
Yeah.
And then of course soul. There's just something about the unique human that I am that dance helps me get to the core of it. It lets me touch in to me not as a finite being, but as the many things that I am, plus the thread that's consistently moving through me again and again and again. Call it soul. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a healing practice, because it moves those like four dimensions of embodiment, the physical, mental, emotional, and soul, it is healing. It does bring us into wholeness. And Bridgid, it's like a work in progress. Like even as I tell that story of how I came to dance or how I found healing in myself, it's like it's a lifetime of intimacy because I'm always changing, the world's changing, the things that come into my ecosystem, like things that are coming into our ecosystem in the world are things we just never expected ever.
Yeah. So now, like, yeah, I'm thinking of, okay, so you found Nia and then you found Five Rhythms, and then there's Open Floor
Yeah.
and the way that I know you to run your open floor dances and how relational they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that I'd really love to just hear you talk about.
Totally. I love open floor. So open floor is a movement practice that when Gabrielle Roth died, beloved teacher of mine, um, many teachers from around the world who had taught the five rhythms wanted to explore the evolution for ourselves. And particularly, with so many areas of study coming in around neuroscience and trauma informed space holding and emotional intelligence and all the things that my colleagues and I have studied over the years, we wanted to bring it more into a practice. And so that's what Open Floor became. And so, the founding members, there was 20 people from around the world and more people joined them. And we created a curriculum together that's is about conscious movement, conscious dance, and holds, particular spaces, but also really weaves in resources and resiliency for us. So there's part of being in relationship that we can't do it if we're not resourced humans. We can't just be like, oh, we live in an ecstatic world. We're just going to dance and get high all the time. And it's always going to be good vibes. And it's like, no, I mean, our world is topsy-turvy right now. It's hard. And what are the resources that we have that lets us stay with ourselves and stay in relationships? So one of the things we created in open floor, we call it the 4x4. So I just named four of them: the mind, the body, the emotions, and the soul. All those dimensions of things we can move and be embodied with. And then the matching of that would be the four like areas of relationship. So when I hold space on a floor, I'm always funneling through these four areas of relationship, and I'll just name them for you. So the first one is so important, is relationship with you and you.
Hmm.
Authenticity with yourself, which only comes through experimentation. Sometimes there can be so much pressure to be authentic, but like, I don't know what's authentic to me until I'm just being in relationship with myself and the world. So that sense of solitude and that connection to self and how important that is for our own agency and sovereignty is a big part of open floor.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anytime you come on the floor, Bridgid, I know you know this, but you'll hear me say, like, take a breath, connect to your own breath. Can you move your knees? Can you move your feet? It's like I help people create a cohesiveness of an embodied self. And it's really difficult to be in relationship if we can't even feel ourselves. And so how do you take time? And, I always wonder about people come into late to class, because I'm like, that's the most precious time, is to like gather yourself. Oh, here is my belly, and here's this feeling I have in my chest. So I think that there's an important part of that relational field that's about you and you.
Hell yeah. That's like the whole
Yeah.
big point of my coaching structure. It's like, I'll talk about relationship with you, but like, what are you bringing into it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And we are relational beings, and we learn about ourselves through being in relationship. And that is so true, but it isn't just relationship in the human world. It's also the more than human world.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's also with these other areas of relationship that I'm going to name. So I'll be curious about it with you. So the other dimension or the area of relationship would be connection. What you and I are doing right now. Like, I see you nodding your head, and you're taking in things I'm saying, but you're there, Bridgid, and I'm here, and we're having this thing happen between us, though. And so there's that connection that is so important. And so how do we create the safest space possible for connection to happen on the dance floor? And again, you'll see it like when I do give a consent talk, or I'm like, just connect with somebody's knees. Can you see someone else's knees and move your knees? And like, how do we pare it down a little bit? Because we can make connections so complex, but like, let yourself reside in spatial, relationship with another human being's body. And that is so important. It's just, let me just be human, and I'm human because I am in this body, and you're in yours. So let's just be human together a little bit and move and just take some of the pressure off of getting things right. So there's something really important in the connective field that I set up that's around experimentation, and there is no right and wrong. And we're in a non-binary continuum of that. We're messing around. Well, I will say that all the time around connection. And I think something really important about connection is consent and boundaries. So, I always lay that out. And I have so many people that say, oh, I can come to your dance floor because you have clear consent talk and you establish boundaries that allow me to have sovereignty of my physical space and my emotional space and my soul space. So
I love it. And it does it in a way that does not demonize another person who doesn't
no.
really get what they're saying. It's like, here's you got to give a clear signal.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for your listeners, I do a consent talk every time I hold space, which is, dance with another person, hang out together. Okay, move away from each other. What freedom that is. You don't have to stay to the end of the song or do a social norm. Like, you get that little impulse to move away, move away. If you want to move back towards them, like towards and away. It's so, so refreshing Doesn't have to mean anything. Doesn't mean I like you. Doesn't mean I don't like you. Doesn't mean I'm trying to pick up on you. It doesn't mean I'm not interested in you. I just am. And then we do a little piece where somebody, we talk about 2 feet to freedom. So if whatever's happening isn't working for you, give yourself some space, like let yourself move away. But people don't always get that cue. They don't know if you're moving away from them. And so if someone's not getting your cue, then give them a no sign. We use a really clear no sign on the dance floor. It's people have come up to me, Bridgid, so much about this particular thing and said, I never was able to say no before. I really struggled with it.
Wow.
Or I used that when someone on the street wasn't respecting my boundaries. And I put that up and made a clear, energetic, sign with my body of no. I wouldn't have known to do that. I wouldn't have practiced it if I hadn't practiced it on your dance floor. So I'm going to say to your listeners, like, if you want to connect with people well, authentically, then practice your no's.
Yep.
Yep. I'm sure that you talk about that. So anyway, that's, good connection requires good boundaries and respect for each other's yeses and nos and maybes and I don't knows. And then the third the third relationship form that we work with is belonging. We are, you know, we are collective animals. We need to belong. And from the work I do with the natural world, we don't just need to belong in the human world. We really need to remember our belonging with the natural world, the wild ones, the more than human world.
First and foremost, I
Well,
came from dirt. I'll return to dirt. That's how it's like just a
mm-hmm,
deep, unspoken, beyond
mm-hmm,
understanding
mm-hmm,
level that
mm-hmm.
I'm just digging into more and more as life goes on. I'll never fully grasp it, or maybe I will. I don't know. Once I become dirt again, I'll, I'll understand it. But yeah, no, I think it's so essential that low
Yeah,
ground of
connection with the
belonging.
natural world I don't think as humans, if we're just looking out a window, I think it is very hard to find belonging in this world, or we don't know what it means to sit underneath a wild sky of stars. We forget our belonging. So, um, yeah. So we move that though. Move that. What does it mean to belong in a room? Because you're there. Like you literally are there. So you belong. And what if belonging also is a verb? It's not like something, a static place of being that meets all your criterias, but I am in a state of belonging because I am reminding myself I am right here, therefore I belong.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the play and experimentation with that. Do I belong on this side of the room?
Yeah.
Do I belong next to this person? And just like I could settle into it.
But also, what if there isn't always criteria for belonging? Like if we practice belonging wherever we are, if the more we practice it, the bigger our world gets. Do you know what I mean? Like if I have really specific criteria for belonging, I mean, this would be a fun discussion to have. Like I'm just playing with a thought experiment right now, but I want to have belonging, a sense of being able to find my ground and my center and my breath and sovereignty in who I am anywhere I go. I'm not saying I got it down. I don't, because of our biology and our biography, because of social issues of racism or oppression that might not be true, obviously, trauma. But how do you trust your identity wherever you go? It's a big task. Belonging.
Well, going back to your first first point, the you and you. It's a mix. It's an inside job, and then of course it can be reinforced or denied by a group.
Yeah, it certainly can, can't it? It's complex. So belonging. And then the last one is, that I think helps in that belonging also is my relationship to source or God or spirit. Yeah, how do I establish a relationship to something larger of mystery in the world and dance that and be with that? Yeah, you got me really thinking about belonging. What a privileged thing to say that you could have belonging wherever you go, but I'm going to be curious about that.
I've seen journeys of people who did not start out feeling that way, and then they learned to feel that way despite
Yeah.
real marginalization. So,
Yeah. I think I'm speaking, yeah, I'm thinking I'm speaking about an imagining of a world that would be so good, wouldn't it? That we all had the opportunity to practice and experiment and be with belonging again and again and again, whatever that meant. Mhm. But see, your definition of belonging and my definition of belonging might be two different things.
I wonder.
I
It's
wonder.
possible because you said I'm imagining this world where we can all practice and experiment with belonging again and again. And maybe I'm just completely blind by my privilege, but I mean, isn't that what we're all doing? Isn't that what everybody does?
Say that in a different way to me.
Um,
We're totally on a tangent here, so you'll edit this,
yeah,
right? Because it's
maybe not. It's really good.
okay.
Belonging.
Okay. Yeah.
Belonging. Like, okay, I'm thinking, I mean, who are we going to use? Like some straw man of some marginalized demographic who, maybe doesn't feel like they belong. But also, like, any baby can feel like they don't belong. Like some, very privileged person can grow up feeling like the real me isn't welcome here. If I really showed who I was, then I would be rejected. I
Oh,
think
for
it's a
sure.
human condition.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I felt that in my family. I think a lot of people feel that in their family. It's like they don't belong because we were
Yeah,
pressured to be a particular way. But I do feel belonging in my family now, and they have not changed.
right.
So I guess I'm giving an example of like, um, I found belonging in lots of ways in my life. And therefore, when I go into a situation where in the past never felt belonging, I actually feel settled and regulated and within my own being, and I accept myself.
Yeah,
But it took a lot of adulting and a lot of work to get there.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's just because this isn't who I attract, but like I mean, I have met a couple people who seem like they just feel settled. Like, wow, you were you had the right kind of needs met in your life to just feel like you deserve to be walking on the earth. How was that?
Yeah, wild, huh? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Good attachment. They got love. They got seen. They got. Yeah, I wonder if we see ourselves. This is my curiosity of this whole conversation that we're having. That if we see ourselves and form a real loving relationship with ourselves, if we feel connection, whether it's with a tree or another human, like real connection, like real acceptance, something can heal on that level for us that then trusts to belong in lots of relationships. If we feel belonging, I mean, I just see so much of this happening less in the human world and more in the more than human world. People who find real belonging in the mountains with the trees that then can come in the human world, and wherever they go they're like, well, it's not conditional on these people.
Mhm. That's so important. That's such a good segue to talk about work with the wilderness.
Sure.
Okay, I'll segue with a little story of when I tried to do transformational work without connecting to nature. I had never tried that before. I had spent years, doing embodiment workshops and all sorts of psychoenergetics work and with a healing teacher of mine, Nessa Emery's. And she always, has us like camping out in nature for our big deep dives. And so that was just hand in hand for me. I relied on it. I expected it. This is just how I do transformational work. And then I was invited by a friend to go do a five rhythms workshop down in Lawrence, Kansas. It with Mama Eagle.
I know
Um,
her. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and it was wonderful, the workshop itself, and the people were lovely. I was staying in a hotel in town and just walking like, 4 city blocks to the studio downtown, and I didn't know like where to find nature. And by like the second day, I was just like, I didn't have my nature to ground into. I needed to like eat a dandelion leaf. I'm like, what do
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
do I do? And I was a mess and I sobbed to the class. And so they were like, oh, go over to the river over there or, um,
Yeah.
and then they took me to somebody's home that was like on some acreage and I could sit with the
Super kind.
land.
Wow, super
Very kind.
kind.
Yeah, they took care of me. Yeah.
Hmm.
But just that, maybe it's a skill I need to learn to like ground in a city. But I spent the first 26 years of my life in downtown Seattle. Like that was like where I
Yeah. Yeah.
raised and everything. And I never knew how to ground there, that's for sure. And then and then I moved
Hmm.
out to the county
Hmm.
and started learning about these things. So, anyways, that's my segue for you to talk more.
I've studied a lot with Animas Valley Institute and the work of Bill Plotkin, and he always says that, and I haven't been willing to live in a city, so I can't be testament to that. But he said a lot of students that have lived in New York City and had one tree that they connected with every day, intimately connected with that tree, like leaned on it, looked at it, touched it every day, and that gave them that reprieve, that elixir of the wild ones of nature of soul. So I feel curious about that. Um, um, yeah, I, was an outdoor guide for a really long time in my life. Like kind of going with that, wanting to test my body. In my 20s, I was an adrenaline junkie. So I rock climbed and whitewater boated and sea kayaked and backpacked and all those things. So, I wanted to move my body in nature, but I was, and I remember when I first started backpacking, it was like key for me, like 3 days in nature and something would radically change in my nervous system. Radically. I would just, it felt like I wasn't seeing the world through interpreted eyes. Like everywhere I looked was human created. Like I was mostly living and moving in a place that was, um, created from the wildness mystery of the evolution of our earth. So there was something I was really hungry for with that. And then when I started dancing, there was something about that sensation that I could get in like 3 hours. 3 days, 3 hours. There was something that let me be with my wilderness inside. um
Hmm.
and or the wildness or the soul of my own body, and that was really important. And then at some point the two have just come together in my life, I guess, like a big, like, well, why would they not? And I live on this river that changes every day. I go out to see her, every day, and she teaches me so much about movement and change and unattachment um and just the sound all day. Living on a river is having its way with me. It's changing me. I'm letting myself be changed. And we're changed by our human relationships all the time. We're changed by our cultural norms. But there's something about being changed by ones who have always been in their own souls
Right.
it has a different quality to it that I suppose now we're back to the conversation of belonging, that lets me feel more belonging than I have ever felt in my life. So facilitating, or like letting nature be my co-guide or my co-facilitator, allows magic to happen and synchronicity and more present moment work. Nothing better than dancing outside. Maybe nothing better than dancing outside to drummers, live musicians. Maybe back to that healing part, the wounded healer, but living intimately with these wild ones that are here, the trees and the birds and the animals and the mountain, river, cedars, firs, ferns, being seen by them, seeing them, hearing them, being heard by them. The quality of relationship is extraordinary. And I feel so lucky. I feel so, so blessed to be able to have that kind of intimacy with piece of land, place. Mm-hmm. It's old for us to have long-term intimate relationship with land, and the longing has been great inside of myself, and there's something that I've been hungry for that's, I feel like I'm getting fed by living here. And so clear that when before I moved here, when we were thinking about buying this property, I was out in the trees. Like most people come and they spend a lot of time at the river here, but there's an incredible forest, and I was spending time with the trees, and I just heard like, will you share it? Like it's meant to be shared. And I was like, yep, I commit to that. And so having workshops and you know, I donate this property to Rite of Passage Journeys that I work for. I thought I was, creating beautiful outdoor kitchen and place for people to gather for my own work, but it just felt so called to work with Journeys. And so it's become sort of a second place for Rite of Passage Journeys to hold programs. And weaving together embodiment, interconnection, depth work with the natural world, soul, psyche, dream work, emotional work, all those pieces.
It's it's really incredible. I mean, I've been out there for an embodied ritual workshop with you,
Yeah.
and the practice and that you have with your land of being with it and being with her, and it really just primes it for human involvement. Because I've been to land where I didn't feel belonging necessarily. Like I would have to build that relationship,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm.
Uh, land that's, maybe more harsh and like doesn't really have a lot of humans around there, or the humans aren't really like respecting it. I can kind of like there's some prickly areas that I've been to, and your place that you cultivate, yeah, it's so primed for humans just to, rest in. And it's like there's already that pathway between human and plant that, yeah, so thank you for doing that. And I'm echoing this so that listeners can, be empowered to create more of that wherever they are, to build that
Yeah.
relationship. Can you
Yeah.
talk more about that, how you do that with your own home?
Well, I'll say first just that when everybody comes here, one of the first things that you did and everybody does that comes in courses to here is they introduce themselves to the land. And then for a land acknowledgement, I honor the indigenous people of this land, the Nooksack people, the always bracken fern people, and they move throughout this whole area here. And one of the ways that we can make reparation is to deeply honor the land and not just use it. And they're, the oldest ancestors are the wild ones. And it's like, we need to make reparation to them for that with them too, because we've used and abused it as a resource for our own benefit as opposed to reciprocity. So, the first thing that I have people to do is say, thank you, I'm here. Hi, like introduce yourself to a tree or to the river or to the mountain. And, sometimes people will feel silly about that, but I was like, it becomes second nature. Like give it a dance or sing a song or make an offering of a loving expression to this place that you've arrived to, and then have a good listen, because it will respond. It will speak back to you. It will offer you something in return for that introduction of you. Your presence there is a gift. And you offer that gift, and you will extract if you don't listen. So how do you listen? And then what do you hear? And so I always have people who come back together in the group and say, here's, as we have a land acknowledgement, also what the land said to you when you introduced yourself. And it's a way of everyone meeting the land from lots of different perspectives. And I think that creates belonging here, is that your unique way of listening is a gift to the group, but also to the land. Your unique person that you are, your vibration, your soul, the ones that are here long for that kind of intimacy or reciprocity. And you long for it. And you long to know them. And if you really long to know the ones that are here and live in mutuality, live in reciprocity with them, then an intimate relationship is built.
Yeah.
As opposed to not living in an animate world. I live in a flat world of resources for me to take. It's prickly, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel sacred, doesn't feel like soul is there. And so for your soul to be someplace, in the soul of these wild ones to be where they've been, it takes relationship tending. And so we slow down and we tend before we use this place to learn with and through and from and on. We take the time to say, who's here? Both you and the tree, or both you and the mountain, or both you and the river.
Well, and I would say you can't even get to that next place unless you have a formal introduction and set the intentions and the pathways, right?
It's fun and unexpected what ends up coming at different places. So our minds can make up our mind about a place or something, but if you make yourself available to the conversation,
Yeah. And that's of course what I meant.
aliveness comes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's what I meant by building relationship. Like it you don't
Yeah.
it doesn't just I mean, of course, it can be nice to go for a stroll through the woods. Like that could be nice. But if we're talking about like, am I primed to really pick up what this forest has to offer me? And am I showing proper respect? Like I love that concept of offering. Like um, it's customary to make an offering to, a host. If you go and have dinner at somebody's house, bring a loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, bring
Totally.
something, just thank you. Here's my appreciation. I'm giving something. And then you're in the flow. They say some people have to uh, give something before they can feel like they belong. Others have to feel like they belong before they feel like giving something. Have you ever heard that?
That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. And it isn't even like I'm doing that so the forest does. It's
Right.
like, wow, you just are. I also do authentic movement practice and have for a really long time. You do it with your eyes closed and you are witnessed. And one of the things that witnessed in your movement, and one of the things I've been noticing lately in authentic movement practice is that what a privilege to just be with another human and witness them, like really see them, and not have to do anything in return to continue to be in relationship. Like I'm just receiving you. I don't it's something totally liberating that's unfolding for me in that practice right now. And they don't have to do anything in particular to entertain me or keep my attention. I am right here. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that it's the same thing with a tree or a flower or a bird, is that we just, you just can be there. And there's something in our nervous systems where, as humans, it feels like we've just entertained for so long or put up so many masks and coped and all these parts that develop to like try to stay in relationship, that we don't just let each other be. Some level, whatever is unfolding for me in that practice right now, it feels life changing. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay right here and be with you. I go out on the land every day. I say hello to the ones that are here. I touch in. I literally touch, smell, taste, feel. I mean, every day if I can, as many senses as possible with ones on the land here. And I have a little checklist even. Like I was listening to your first podcast and I was like, oh, something that I feel like I've been really waking up to is that, I do a lot in the world. Like if you listen to my bio, it's like, oh yeah, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit. I hold dance space. I facilitate workshops. And I've just raised 2 kids. I've just like launched 2 kids from the nest. So I've been a very like doing for others person. And I'm in a phase where it's like, I have got to do self-care. And I just will forget. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And so in order to really hold myself accountable, I have a checklist. And I don't go to bed until I've checked 7 things off of that list every day and prayed. And I include prayer as like, it's all a prayer, in other words. And so I, and I'll just forget to take my vitamins or I'll forget whatever it is. And it's on there and it lets me hold myself accountable for that self-care. And what I'm noticing right now related to like holding myself so accountable to that is that love is growing inside of me. And I have more capacity for patience and I have more space for connecting with others.
How long have you been doing that?
I can't tell you exactly. But I always think, oh, I'm someone who does self-care. But then I would really think about it and then I would be like, well, I maybe did 2 things yesterday. 7 things a day plus praying throughout my day. Like I'm
Is it the
gonna
same 7 things, or is it like pick 7 out of this
No, there's like,
overwhelming list?
like yeah, there's like it's not overwhelming. No, it's like 10 things on the list, maybe 11. So on there would is I have a tree on this property that I'm just in love with right now. So it's like visit the tree, take my vitamins. I tend not to eat morning breakfast, and it's really good for me to eat a morning breakfast. I tend to like wait till later in the day to eat. So like eat the morning breakfast, like basic things, but there's also make art. Um, I said recently, like I don't feel like myself if I'm not making art. So it could even be a small thing, but I make art, or I move my spine from the top to all the way to my tailbone to like keep my spine fluid, or exercise, obviously walk, or do some sort of exercise. So there's things like that on there that are, wake up and dream journal, or if I don't dream journal, I pull a tarot card. Yeah, I want mystery to be in my life every day. It's things like that.
That's fabulous. Okay, so for a busy, busy lady, what kind of art are you making? What's your medium? Because I don't imagine you're able to spend 4 hours on it.
I am in love right now with um, printmaking on gel plates. Do you know what that
Ooh.
is? There are these things called these jelly plates, and you paint on them and reverse. In other words, like what's going to be at the what when you print it, what's going to be first is going to be what you paint first. So, and it's not precise. It's not a precise thing. So you paint on this jelly pad, GELI, and you make whatever's going to be in on top. And then you wait just a little bit, and then you paint another layer, and then you paint another layer. And then when you're done, you roll on a background like with a roller, and you put a piece of paper down, and then you lift it up, and it has this incredible print on it.
Whoa.
I'm in love. That is, if I have an hour to make some art, I'm gonna do a jelly print. I love that. Sometimes I just take out a little piece of paper and I doodle. Sometimes um, I have a lot of art. I have like a whole art like thing. I'll just grab a piece of paper, start cutting something with scissors, make some marks. Like I don't care. I mean, the other thing I just love, I think we did it at the workshop that you did out here, is just black paper with oil pastels. It's like the most satisfying thing. And I let myself make marks from a place of mystery and see what wants to come out. So almost all my art is process art. What am I feeling? What am I sensing? Letting mystery come through. I just love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Hmm.
need ideas and inspiration. You know.
I think checklist when you're not gonna do something, because like underneath my art little box has like 7 things that I could do, so I don't have to think about it. I can just go pick one. So there's something for me about self-care that really helps to like just go do, as opposed to thinking about it too much,
Right. Yeah.
because
Time's up. I've been
I can talk
thinking.
myself out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, your things can be so little. Your self-care things can be like, take your vitamins. I feel so good when I do that.
Is there anything else that you want to share as, about rite of passage journeys? Where do they find you? Where do they find this organization?
Yeah, both my work is underneath my website, so jennymacke.com, and you spell Macke, Macke. So all my dance work is there. All my embodiment work is still there that I still do. And then Rite of Passage Journeys is RITE of Passage. Journeys is JOURNEYS.org. And one of the things I got connected with Journeys because I did a vision quest with them. And so it's an organization that understands ceremony, that's worked deeply with moving away from appropriative ceremony and understanding what it means to do ritual and ceremony in these times that's authentically belongs to you personally as a human. We just launched this whole series on soulful space holding um, and leadership, which is for adults, that's oriented towards um, in response to the leadership we're seeing no soul present, no understanding of an emotional realm, no care for people's humanity, let alone their souls, um, no 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 empathy and compassion and understanding for traumas that people face, um, a movement towards moving away from humaneness in our work. And so this program that we're doing, which is 12 programs over the next 2 years, is oriented towards calling us accountable for being a different kind of leader, a different kind of space holder for other humans, that has emotional intelligence in it, that looks towards technologies like, what about dreams? What about our collective dreaming, waking dreams, sleeping dreams, living dreams? This old technology of bringing things out of our subconscious into consciousness, that's asking. So there's a women expansive and a men's expansive dream workshop. There's stuff on rites of passage, um, the importance of ceremony in our lives. and belonging. There's a whole course on belonging that we're doing. So it's addressing those things. And then, of course, the kids work, because if we don't look to the next generation, what the hell are we doing? So, how are we supporting our youth to understand connection with the natural world, get resilient by stretching themselves, by being in the wilderness, living in community together, speaking from the heart, listening to the heart, getting away from their phones and technology. So, we're really known for our youth programs, and it's probably why I'm there, is because of my passion of supporting the next generation.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I heard in this, the age of Aquarius, the Pluto's moving into, or it's been in Aquarius now. It's like we got to remember what it is to be human. Like that's what the real leaders are going to bring.
Crazy. Isn't that crazy? What's the point of being a leader if you're not connected to humanity? What is the point? Why would we even call that person a leader? It's crazy. Yeah, well, I think, Bridgid, that you and I are both really interested in authenticity, and I'm hoping and praying that we also can give our leaders a break, like hold them accountable for being human. That's what you and I were just talking about, but also letting them be human.
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, nobody
Everybody,
wants to be a politician because it can't be human.
right. The court of public opinion is pretty brutal.
So it attracts people that want something different than being human. So why are we surprised? I don't know.
Right. Oh, I could see that, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, I have such optimism, I have
Oh, I
to
love
say.
that.
I
Hmm.
have so much optimism because, like, why? Okay, I don't think that people are necessarily meant to collectivize by the billions. I think that that is unrealistic. So people don't like what, this very super, super far away, high up government person is doing. Great. Like, focus on your own little niche of the world. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
make that good. No one can
Yeah.
mess with that. Like, look out for each other. Be a human with the humans in your life. Like, this is I just as a species, we're not supposed to be worried about Washington, D.C. I don't, we got to just look out for each other.
Yeah, I think about that with dance. Like there's so many people coming. I mean, there's like 75 people probably this Sunday at dance, last Sunday at dance. And like they're coming together because it feels good to be there and they need each other. Oh, I can be at a place that I can be express authentically, feel other people's hearts, be human together. Like I feel like a collective exhale at the end of that dance. People are like, oh my God, I needed that so much,
Yeah.
to be in a different kind of community together.
And they didn't all vote for the same person. I know this.
Sure. We aren't talking
Yeah.
about we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're also not talking about that. We're talking about present moment being together as humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, things needed to get shook up in our world, whatever that means, and it is getting shook up. So, um, I think we're in a time of change. Maybe that's the thing to be excited about. It can be scary, but things are getting shook up.
Got to dance it through. Such a
I
practice.
I hear you, human. I got it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenny, for all the opportunities you give us here. And maybe you'll get some people flying in saying, I want some of that. They hear it from
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you, Bridgid, and just, honor your path and the leadership that you're offering by having these conversations. So just really an appreciation for you too.
Oh, I love you. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks for listening. If this spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. To discover which of the 5 petals is asking for your care right now, take the free 5 petals assessment at bridgidbricano.com/self-assessment. In closing, I'll leave you with a favorite phrase I learned in Circle. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's ours is ours. Until next time, be well.